Property to peak in 2024. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your, well, it's not 7-Eleven coffee for a change, but it's, portable, back of the ute, barista coffee, which ain't too bad to be honest. I was on a job site before I came home to record. Now, let's have a look at this article discussing property peaking in 2024. So what do you reckon? You think we're going to have another jump up? But before we look at that, let's remind ourselves some of the frankly insane asking prices of property. We'll bring up Sydney here and, well, you can see the spike here. Even if we have a big correction, what's the big number up here? Hang on, let me just full screen it. Say 1.3 million bucks. Let's say we lose 30% of that, a 30% correction in Sydney property. Could you imagine the media? Could you imagine the hysteria and the people who've been waiting for a property correction? Yeah, but they've been waiting since back here. How many people have been waiting back in 2010? Okay, so they get their 30% fall from now. I've been waiting, I've been right. I've been, keeping out of the market, not taking a risk. But you're back to what, $1 million bucks? So for a 30% correction. $1 million, guys. Is that affordable for the average punter? Not really. It really isn't. I know Sydney is an extreme example, but let's look at good old Melbourne. Melbourne as well. And I'll just wait for that to load up. Same thing, guys. Same thing. Which one? This combined. We'll say all houses, about $1 million bucks. You lose 30%. Say about 300 grand. How far down do we go? Okay, we're going a lot further back here. Oh, back to 2015. 2015 price levels. So if you've been waiting for 2015 for a huge correction to the market, 30%, and that would be, let's just say, memorable. Very memorable. You've missed all this time here, potential growth, but you'll be safe because it's going to crash down. I can't see it. I cannot see it. Look at all of the costs that go into building a property, building a project. What's one that's just gone up 30%? Electricity. It's not going to get cheaper. This push for renewables is going to make power more expensive. Most people, sadly, probably most people don't understand that. They believe the BS that it's going to be cheaper for us, but it's not. That's going to drive up the cost of construction, guys. Power is used everywhere. And they want to electrify the economy. And what about my city, Brisbane, which is just the stupidest of all of them? We were going back there. You could get, what's this one? All houses, 600 grand, 700 grand. Combined 600,000. Not as insane as Melbourne or Sydney, but quite reasonable. If you go further back, it hasn't really increased that much. From 2015, it was pretty flat, slowly growing up or climbing up as it was, and now boom, it's just gone crazy. What are we looking at here? Combined 847,000, and we've got a housing crisis here. We've got a rental crisis here. You've got the Olympics. It's not getting any easier to build. So even if we see a correction, quarter off, 200 grand off, we're only down 600. So we're still back to 2020 prices. So when there's talk about a correction, a crash to the property market, we need to think about it in timescales, honestly. That's the approach we need to take, guys. Okay, so let's have a look here. So if you go and throw in you're a property bull, you only talk up property. Well, no, I look at the reality of the situation. There's no political will in Australia to allow a significant correction in the property market. Plus, it is a tool that our government uses to stimulate the economy during troubled times. The last two recessions. I would argue that's sufficient precedent to say they're going to do that again. I don't think it's fair. I think it's kind of bullshit. Previous generations had, different opportunities than others. It's give and take. There's some advantages we have nowadays that previous generations would have really benefited from. So there you go. Let's check this one. This is based on PropTrack, but it's all similar in many ways. So PropTrack data reveals a possible new peak in property prices in 2024. Experts warn, should property prices continue to grow as it has been in recent months, Aussies can expect to be seeing a new peak in the market by next year. A new high. I mean, Australia, guys, Australia. Aussies looking to buy property could expect to see prices hit a new peak by early next year, new data reveals. Now, here's a question for you, everyone, because we talk about property on the channel a lot. I'm in the construction industry. We don't work on many residential projects. But do people try and time the market when you're buying a house? Do you try and time the highs or the lows? When you're selling, do you try and time the market? I'm sure a lot of people did recently in the last few years just with the mania. But the normal punter, my understanding was it's to do with the phases of your life. Generally, when you've hooked up, you want to have kids, you're married, you want to move into a house, you either get an apartment or a house. It's a stage of your life when you look to enter the market. The sad reality is the cost of the market is delaying these stages of people's lives. And to address this, well, I'd argue, population growth issue, they're looking at just bringing more people in. But do people try and time the market? Maybe that's a poll question I should put up to the viewers to find out. Because, trying to time the market in the stock market is a challenge in itself. Trying to time it in crypto is a joke. For the average person, so long as you're making your repayments, you've got enough buffers, your finances are okay, do you even care what your property price is worth? I guess maybe at the barbecue you can brag a bit, or you can, get some money out of your house. Equity, mate. Buy that jet ski. I had a mate who bought a jet ski. He didn't hold on to it very long. The latest PropTrack Market Insight report has found if property continues to grow at the same pace it has over the past quarter, then the new peak could be reached within 6 months. Okay, a quarter of data. Can you really make forecasts for next year based on a quarter of data? I guess I'm looking at this chart here. I guess you probably could, couldn't you, guys? So, PropTrack senior economist Eleanor Craig said the report showed stronger market conditions are becoming more widespread in 2023. Housing demand is stronger, likely bolstered by the surge in net overseas migration, as well as the very tight rental market. And you'll have people that are going, why is migration so high? It's never going to be addressed in Australia. Don't kid yourself. It's almost a non-political issue between the two major parties, and any of the fringe parties that discuss it get slammed. You'll have the Greens discussing housing affordability, more social housing, this, and this. They won't address the fact that perhaps the population growth due to net overseas migration maybe needs to be managed or turned down for a period of time, or linked to housing affordability. I would make the argument that states should compete for people, as in a certain number of visas they should compete for, and that's tied to the amount of housing they build. If they're not building enough housing, if they're not proving enough housing, regardless of private or public sector, we need to get those building approvals faster done. The town planning approvals need to go through faster. That should be tied to the number of people that states are allowed to win over. Maybe one way to do it, tie a number of spots international students the universities can have around the different states. Tie that to the housing construction in those states. I wonder if that would lead to any innovation in education as well as housing procurement, because it is fundamentally a supply issue. Don't kid yourself. Given limited new stock is coming to market, buyer interest is being concentrated, which is underpinning home prices and offsetting the downward pressure from interest rate rises. If the pace of price growth recorded over the past quarter continues, national property prices will surpass their prior peak by January 2024. So, in this, an example. Here, the Brisbane asking prices. We can see here what was a prior peak. Oh, we're a bad example. What about Melbourne? Did they dip down? They dipped down a little bit. What about Sydney? Yeah, well, you can say that's the peak there, and they've dipped down from it. There's been a correction, and we've seen the articles. So it'll be higher than the previous peak, which itself is insane. Housing in many parts of Australia is not for the average person anymore. There you go. It's not for the average person. It comes after the Reserve Bank hiked rates to an 11-year high, with a warning there could be more hikes on the way. Yeah, I know. Okay, but I mean, that's not really saying anything. Rates have been so low for so long since the GFC. They dropped them, crashed them down, then they tried to lift them up after the GFC, and it's just been downward ever since, and now it's just going back to normal. So think about it. If we're between that 6 and 4% you can see on this chart, that's kind of the normal range, at least from the 90s to 2008. So if we head back to that, all the people who over-leveraged, borrowed too close, were Icarus flying to the sun, they're going to have a tough time. And it's going to manifest in changes to people's quality of life. That's how it's going to manifest. Let's have a look here. What else? The central bank increased the cash rate by 25 points to 4.1. Yep, we've seen that. It means the average borrower, you're paying another $1,100. And if you're 49% from more a month, rates, your repayments have gone up. We're well aware of that. She warned, should interest rates continue to rise as they did in June, recovery in the market is expected to slow even further. Though interest rates are closer to their peak than not, and the shock of rate rises has lessened. Population growth, tight rental market conditions, and a housing shortfall are also expected to remain. If strong demand holds up against the expected slowing of the economy, most capital city markets would return to positive annual price growth in the coming months. The PropTrack data stated the possible peak in Jan 24, followed by a 4% decline in property prices in 22, from the March 22 peak to December 22 low. Since their December low, national home prices have climbed 1.55% and are now just 2.6% below their peak, according to the data. If prices in Sydney continue to grow at the same pace, having already gone up 3% from the low of November 22, then the peak could arrive by December 23. Meanwhile, Brisbane could be on track to surpass their April 22 peak by September 23. That's 3 months away. Oh boy. This year's just flying by, guys. Am I the only one that is shocked at how fast 23 is going? It's already the end of the financial year. It's crazy. I got to start thinking taxes. While Canberra could set a new record by November 24 if growth continues at its current pace. House prices in Adelaide and Perth also reached a new peak in May, having increased by 2.6% and 3.1% so far this year, respectively. The report found if property price growth is maintained, both capital cities will continue to hit new price peaks throughout 2023. Well, there we go. I mean, let's have a chat about this one, guys. So, property to peak in 2024 based on 1 quarter of data. Well, I mean, fundamentally, what they're using to make this argument is the fact that there is reduced supply with less people coming onto the market and demand still remaining strong. That's correct. We've seen that. I don't know, guys. I honestly would not be surprised if we'll start to see, a few more rate hikes and property still going up. It's the Australian way, remember? Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one. You think it's going to happen? As always, check out Heise BIM or Heise Does. I occasionally put up videos there. Not many at the moment. I've been flat out the last couple of weeks. If you want to support us, you can on YouTube or Patreon. Use our referral links, buy our pocket squares, or call us if you need an architect. Take care. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next episode of HeiseSays. Bye for now.